Hello, everyone.
You guys making out? Any questions?
Yes. Is your monitor working?
I don't have it set up here yet.
Mine still isn't. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
You're using the USB port on the left, right?
No, I had it on the left and I couldn't see it when I went into preferences and went into my displays. So I just moved it to the right. Just as I was waiting for you guys.
Yeah, I haven't had any problems for mine, although I did return mine and swap it out for a 4K one. But yeah, mine was all plug and play. I literally just pulled it out and plugged it in and it started working. But you did have to use the right port.
On the because it keeps saying no signal, no power saving mode. That's what mine keeps saying.
Don't know what to tell you.
I might have got a dud.
Maybe.
Okay. I want to know about my beekeeper from Thursday. My beekeeper didn't do what it was supposed to do.
Okay, go ahead, share your screen. Let's take a look.
And see, I can't find my display. But yeah. So I did this.
Okay, so let's look at your code because it looks like the table is not getting created. So let's start in your db.js and scroll up a little bit and scroll all the way over to the right.
Oh, wrong way.
Okay, so portfolio looks right there. Okay, and you pulled in the project which you use there and you call db sync. Okay, last thing to check in your server.js. That's what you're missing. You are missing the require of the db file.
Up here.
Mm-hmm. So const db const space squiggly curly braces db and then equals require quote
inside
outside equals space require parentheses quotes
inside the parentheses.
Yep. ./db /db / not dot
Slash.
no db /db.js and just take out this dot. Okay, then npm run start in your terminal. Okay, now you got to crash. So scroll up and figure out why it's crashing. Project has already been declared. Okay, in line db line 7. So let's go look in db.js. You got to take this one out because you already have it on 7.
Should I just so I duplicated it?
Yep. So save and scroll down in your terminal and see if you have any errors. Yep, you do. Scroll back up a little bit. Now you've got unexpected token export. So scroll down at the end. of the file, and this should say module.exports equals instead of the word export. Module.exports.
Darn it.
And then equals.
Oh.
And then save and scroll down to the bottom of your terminal. Okay, now you've got a different error that 3001 is already in use somewhere else. That's the error address in use right there. Do you have any other servers running?
I don't think so. Let's see.
So you have something else running somewhere. Go look in your doc.
We didn't, I thought we used Hello World.
We did, but it's got to be another one. What's this? What's the fourth one over from the end? Put your mouse back down at the dock. What's this one right here? Ah, there it is. That one's running. So click that, click in the terminal, Control C. And now come back over here. Control C to stop it, and then up enter to restart it. Okay. Now go to your beekeeper. And hover over the word entities and refresh. Oh, try again. Just click into that window. And there are your projects. So you're good to go. Oh, that's an old command. If you just double click on projects, it will go away.
Cool beans. Thank you.
No problem. Nicole, go ahead.
I couldn't figure out why my section didn't work, so I thought it was this, but it's not, but it's just right here. Is it supposed to be something else?
Yeah, it says it has no closing tag. So the problem isn't the opening tag, it's that you're missing the closing section.
Remember mine did this? There was a
So
div.
do I need a additional one, or this one won't work? Like, I have a closing one, it's just right down here.
Let me request remote control. So you've got a closing body here, which you definitely shouldn't have. And then I think it was something like we don't have a closing.
She has an opening body too, Max.
Oh, okay. So we definitely shouldn't have an opening body. Then we've got a opening div. So it's mad that this section doesn't have a close. So if we follow that line all the way down, we close it in the right spot, but it looks like there is a missing div here. Maybe not. Christy, do you remember what our end result looked like?
Yeah, so it was a div up a little, it was above the section, because I fixed one before I got in the class, because I was working on it beforehand. It's a div, but I don't, I'm trying to remember because remember you were tracing it in class Thursday night. It was a div.
I think that. Well, you don't have any errors there anymore, so I think I fixed that one. Is there
Yeah,
a reason you don't have prettier on, Nicole?
Oh, it should be on. I didn't know it wasn't. It does that sometimes.
So you've got like errors here. All right, line 59, it's mad at you. So hold on, let's do a little bit more cleanup. So 59 is mad because you don't have a closing tag there. And if that's probably an extra div that you didn't need. Nope. Oh, you definitely needed that one.
down.
Okay, now 103, it's mad at you because class name button, you don't have a closing arrow there. And then 55, it's still mad at you because you've got an opening div and probably no closing div right before the end of the section.
Right. That's what it was.
Now you're good to go.
Thank
Oh.
you.
I wonder why it did that to us on there.
Because it wasn't valid HTML in the first place. In our HTML, we didn't have it right in the first place. And that's why when we copied and pasted it, React yelled at us and was like, yo, you're missing some closing divs.
Oh, okay.
Larry, go ahead.
So I'm kind of overwhelmed with all of the data. I spent hours, looking through it last night. I do know that at different stores, stuff could be in different aisles. So if we look here, they have the same pictures, but it is showing that the stuff is in different aisles.
Yep.
One thing I was able to find was like an external store ID.
Okay.
And within the items, that ID is there as well. However, if you pick out the list of items, they're just showing you the items for that one particular store.
Okay.
And I know to start working and get things done, I'm going to focus on one store first and try to get that working. But in the desire to do multiple stores, what would be the best way to structure the data?
So can you show me what it looks like in the data for the store ID just to get a better idea of like how they're structuring it?
Okay, let's see, refresh. Store products, no. Oh, no, I got it. I got the things over here. Categories. Oh, geez. I feel like I don't. Oh, headers. That's right, headers. Category ID equals 7. Excuse me, this is in my way. So what's this? Okay. So see, and this is not. These are just a list of stores.
Yep.
But see where it says where it's in orange 17.
Yep.
1,837. That's an external ID, I'm thinking.
Okay.
And that same ID shows up in the list of when I have the list of products going, it does show up in those
Can
things.
you show me the products data?
Let's see, what's this? No landing page. I was going over there trying to reverse engineer their stuff last night. Products. Okay, this is a product. Let's see. This is just one product though. All right, I'll just stick with that one then. All right, let me see if I can find it. It's not on here. Wants to make me a liar.
Is it on the, when you do a search for all the products, is that where the 17,837 shows up?
That was for that particular store, and I was looking at different stores, so let me see. Oh, here's one. These are categories though. Shit.
If you just go to this tab and do a search for 1738, let's see what comes up.
I think it just came up. No, yeah, because this
No.
might be from a different store. That might be the problem. Let me go back a page. These are collections, so this is, yeah, that was something different. Let's see here. Go back a page. Here we go. All right, this might work. Command F. All right, so there's 41. So yeah, this is correct then. So
Okay,
it's the well, not, that's not the exact. It doesn't match a name.
but it matches the store number. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
looks like they store the items in their database where every item gets a duplicate in their database for every store that carries it. So I would probably end up doing the same thing and say, hey, I'm going to loop over all of the store products and store all the store products in my database. And in addition to storing like the categories of the product, I'm going to just store the store number with it as well. And so in your database, you would actually have, every time there's a new store, there are going to be another 20,000 items that get added to your database because it's going to support different stores.
Okay.
And that's only because that's how they have it structured in their data. So that's kind of the way that you need to work with it as well.
So, yeah. So I'm trying to get a picture. So the store, so I was thinking that it was going to be a store database.
Yep, a store table.
Store table, yes. And then there was going to be an items table as well.
Yep.
So in the items table, basically, I'm going to, for every store that I'm trying to work with, I'm going to enter all of their items into it. And then if someone was to pick a specific store in an item, I would say, hey, go to the items table and find the row that has this store ID that matches that item.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so you're gonna just do a where, right? So they sign into your app and they say, you know, here are the 3 top stores that you can pick from. So you pick Clay, and Clay gets saved into the users table somewhere, right? User store selection equals 17837. And then when they start searching for things, you're gonna search where the product name equals bread and the store number equals 17,837.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. You're on the right track. Now it's just a matter of like, get your models going and get the scraper pulling that data in.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone else has questions, feel free to raise their hand and I'll just go around until hands are down. But Christy, you are up next.
So mine's is quick. So while Larry was talking, I took, let me show you. I have this, which is, wait, screen. I have this, which is a HDMI, and then it has a C on the end. So I plugged this in, and then
Yep.
I took the HDMI cord that came with it, and I plugged it in. And so I still can't see the monitor. So
Well, if you're using HDMI, it won't pull power. So is it plugged
Right.
in to another port?
I plugged it back into the wall, into the socket. And then
Yep.
on the left side, I have it in the HDMI. And then now I have this, you remember the thing I had that could hold 3 things? So one is a C, one is a HDMI, and then one is for my USB. So I have it connected into that. And then I have my regular power cord into my
Okay,
Like-
that power though, coming out of that hub is not power out, it's only power in. So that USB-C port on your hub can only be used to put power into the Mac. It can't be used to pull power out of the Mac. So the
Right.
monitor,
That,
I don't need power to my monitor because I got it plugged into the wall.
oh, you
That-
do, okay.
I want to say that piece with the, where you can plug in the USB-C, the regular USB, I think USB-A, and then the HDMI. I think there's an issue if you're plugging the C thing into it, trying to make it work, if that makes sense.
Well, I had it plugged into the monitor, and then I had the power cord going into the C socket. So I had the monitor going straight into the Mac, and it still won't work. It didn't work. I
The only thing I can recommend is moving the power to the other C. Because those C ports are labeled on somewhere around them of what they're for. And they're not the same, even though it's the same exact port, it's not wired the same way.
Okay, so now I just moved the C. I moved the power to the left side.
Okay,
Let me see, let me go to preferences and see if I can see it.
is the monitor on? You may need to push the button on the side or the wheel thing to turn it on.
I might just have a dud, and that's why I was trying to rule out everything before I would, whoa, the sun. Yeah, see, now it's not even coming on. It won't even, I'm pushing the button.
Yeah,
Don't even
I don't know what to tell you.
All right, wait, okay, so it just came on. No signal. Power saving. So it's a dud. Okay, I'm put it
Yep.
back in. All right. Next.
Doug, go ahead.
Oh,
Nicole, just raise your hand and that way I know who's in order.
okay.
Okay, so I had a question about on the server side. Actually, I had two questions. One was, and I feel like I asked this one before. When you do res send, is that like a return of a function? Or what after you hit res send and if you have code below it, will that keep getting run?
It will keep running. It is not like a return of a function in that way. However, you cannot res send a second time. So once you res send once, you can't respond to the request a second time. So you want to be careful. I'd say 90% of the time your res.send will be the last line. But if for whatever reason you wanted to respond to the client and then do some additional work, like go clean up the database or do something else after the res.send, you can do that. But like I said, most of the time res.send is going to be the last line in the function.
Right. Okay, thank you. That makes sense. So the other thing was in my users table, I added a current store ID, which gets updated whenever you switch from store to store. Which at this point I'm still just working for one store for my MVP, but I'm trying to include other stuff even if I don't use it right off the bat. So my question, I guess, was about the rec session user. When I update current store ID in the user table, that will not change in the value in the rec session.
That is correct. Yes.
Is there any way I can, I mean, I've just done it every place I need it. I just keep calling the database on the back end to go get it. But I was wondering, is there any way to, like, if I say, oh, I want to store something else in the cookie for this session, is there a way to do that?
You just would update rec.session.user.store ID manually whenever you updated it in the database as well. There's no such thing as like a use effect for express where you can say, oh, when the user gets updated, also go update the rec.session.
And
there are ways you could do that with a SQLize probably has some custom hooks that you could use. But it would just be easier to say, hey, whenever that endpoint that runs that changes the user store ID, also update it in the session.
And the rec session user is, when that first gets set, is it a copy of the user entry in the table? So whatever you have.
Correct, and it's just a regular object.
Can you add stuff to it?
Yep, just like an object.
Okay. And will that, so if I change the rec session user, I add a property or something to it, that will persist for the duration of the session?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you log out and log back in, or at some point, if the rec.session.user reruns from the database, it could potentially overwrite whatever else you put into it. So therefore, it might be a good idea to say, oh, I'm not going to store it in rec.session.user.storeID. Maybe I'll store it in rec.session.storeID instead. So that user object stays pristine of this is the data that's in the database. And then, oh, I also have a separate property I store in the session for their store ID. So that would be my line of, if store ID is also stored in the users table, then it's fine to just keep it up to date and sync it yourself in that rec.session.user. But if you store ID in a different table in the database, I would worry about the two getting out of sync. And that's when I would just store it in rec.session.storeID instead.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Nicole, did you have a question before I go back to Larry?
Oh no, I was just suggesting a docking station for Christy.
Okay. Yeah, I think her problem's with the monitor itself. It's not with the cords.
Okay.
Larry, go ahead.
Not a question. I just had well, I do have a question. What does authenticate return besides the promise for SQLize? Because I know it says, you know, if it successfully completes, then it's like, okay. If it doesn't, it's going to throw an error. But does it return like true or false, or?
So that's a good question. I don't actually know. The reason we call authenticate is not based off of the return. So whenever you call a function, there's not only what it returns, but there's also what it throws. And so that's why we don't say, you know, const error equals db.authenticate and then say if there is an error, then throw, you know, error connecting to the database. We do that await authenticate, and then we catch the error that's getting thrown from it. So a catch is kind of like a function return, like it's going to stop running whatever code is underneath it, and it's going to move down to the catch block instead of the try block. So it's not necessarily what authenticate is returning, it's that we're trying to authenticate, and if there are any errors, that's why we go down to the catch and do the stuff down there.
So basically, if there aren't any errors, it may not return anything. And in the event that it doesn't do that, it's going to continue with the code that's in that block.
Exactly. And that's why if like your Postgres isn't running, even though we do await DB authenticate and then console.log connected to server, if Postgres is never running, you'll never get that console log connected to server because the authenticate throws an error. We immediately stop running the try block and we go down to the catch instead.
Okay, and then another observation, remember when we were trying to use Postman to access the API, and then we had to go like the cookie route. If you copy the request as a curl and import it into Postman, then it allows you to process the request.
Just good to know. Yeah. And it may be there may be other details in the headers that you need, not just the cookies, but some other setup, or there may be some basic authentication around it, but the curl is just really good at capturing all of that. So that's kind of the better way of getting it into Postman is because it's pulling all of that data in. I haven't used that technique, but it makes a lot of sense as to why it would work that way.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just trying to see the API documentation just says that it returns a promise, but it doesn't tell you what's in the promise. So I guess you could console.log out the await db.authenticate and see what it did, but the main point of that is to get the catch to fire in case something goes wrong. It's not really about the output.
I want to say I tried that and then it did undefined. Like I think I tried to put it in a variable and then console log the variable and it said undefined. So
yeah, it is. I mean, the documentation literally just says test the connection by trying to authenticate. It runs select 1+1 as result query. So it literally just says, hey, database, go add 1+1 together. And if I get anything back, it's probably authenticated. But if anything goes wrong, you're going to throw an error. And then that's what I'm going to do instead.
thank you.
Scadia, go ahead.
Hey Max, I went back into Wednesday and realized that we didn't record the first part, and I was gonna use that as my guide on adding a page. Is it possible you could just show me how to? I know how to add a page, but just to link it together.
Yep. I actually worked with Nicole on this earlier today. Go ahead and share your screen. I will say that Thursday's class, when we moved all of the portfolio stuff over, that is a good example as well, because we ended up linking the portfolio section on the homepage to individual pages. So that's not a bad class to review anyway, but I can definitely help you get the linking set up now.
Max, I feel like you're gonna kill me because my cats don't look like crap, but don't judge me.
No, we're only gonna do the linking. That's the only code I'm looking at.
Okay, all right. I think I feel confident to share now. All right.
Oh my God, what are we looking at? Oh wait, you haven't started your screen share yet.
Sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay, don't kill me. Need to add homepage. I'm still trying to link my daggone picture, but we doing that.
Okay.
Now. No worries. So I will, and does it need to be added in it need to be added in the SRC, right?
For the linking or the picture?
No, for the linking. I'll do the picture. I got reason.
Okay, so a couple steps we're gonna do here.
Okay.
Request remote control. First things first, I'm gonna look at your package.json.
Okay.
And you do not have React Router in here. So before we can route to different pages, we have to install the router. So we just do an npm install React Router dot.
Okay.
Once that is in there, I'm going to go look in your app.js, and it looks like this is all okay. Your script tag should not be in here. These
should be in my index. Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm just going to move those over quickly.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'm going to look in your app.js, and we shouldn't have the body element, right? Because the body is actually right up here. And so whatever is in our React code is actually going to go right inside of this div ID root. So that's how index.html works under the hood. So I'm going to just come up here and see where your body is and take that out as well.
Okay.
And then the last thing I want to do is move this whole header into its own component. So to do that, I'm going to go make a new file in SRC called header.js. And we just do a const header is a return. And I'm going to take this whole header, move it into here, and then export default header. Now, do you want this header to show up on every page?
Yes.
Okay, so what we need to do is not only set up our router, but to set up our layout file with our outlet in it. So to get started with the router, what we're going to do is we're going to say import browser router, routes and route. And then we're going to say in here, there is a browser router. Inside the browser router, there are routes. And in those route, there is going to be a route with a path of a slash and an element of this thing called layout.
Okay.
And then inside that layout, there are going to be other routes. And one of those routes is going to be, do you call it your homepage?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to say there's another route, the path of that, and an element of homepage.
Yeah, two
Route.
routes tag, closing routes tags, Max.
Thank you. There we go. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to put all of your other routes in here because you want all of those other routes to show up inside the layout.
Okay. So I basically
make
copy the
sense?
same, yep, the same type of script, well, line 10, but it would be for the
All your other pages. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we need to, because if we start right now, it's going to be like, what is layout and what is homepage? I don't know what those are.
Okay.
So, right, layout is not defined, homepage is not defined. So let's go create them really quickly. We're going to say layout is a, we know we're going to need the outlet from React Router DOM. And the outlet is, again, the reminder that is whatever is inside of these routes in here. We're providing an outlet inside of the layout for that stuff to show up.
Okay.
And so in here, we do our const layout. And we return a div. And we know we want our header on every page.
So that's why okay, anything that I want to be on every single page will be in the layout.
You got it. And then we're going to put our outlet there. So we're saying put the header on everything. And then this is where our route is actually going to show up. So one more file we need is your home file. And this is going to return a div, and inside of it, just so we can see that it's working, we're going to say homepage.
Okay.
And let me just make sure I forgot the export default layout so we can actually use it in other files. Now in app.js, we just need to import our layout from our layout file. And we need to import our homepage from our home file. And if we do all of that, now when we look at what's running, we see all of these routes up here. And the last thing you would need to do is in your header to use link tags instead of a
pounds. Gotcha.
So this one, I'll just do one for you so that you've got a starting place. And we're going to say home is going to link to that homepage, and we don't forget to close the tab.
Oh, okay.
So whatever goes in this two is what needs to match with whatever is in this path here. And whatever is in this path here will automatically pull out this element, which will show up in this outlet in addition to whatever other components you have in your layout.
Okay, and then same if I wanted to go ahead and add that footer in, I would just add the footer page and then link it all back to the layout page like we just did the header and it'll show.
And
Okay,
you wouldn't have to put it in app because it's all part of the layout.
layout. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions?
I will pose a question like once I get this all done. I think just trying to figure out in my mind how it will all link to like my back end, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah, just keep going on your front end because tomorrow in class we're going to practice more with the back end and getting data pooling and using state and all of that stuff. So like, just continuing to work on your front end at this point.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to get more back end practice during class.
Okay, sounds good to me. Thank you.
Larry, you're up.
So I noticed that in her project, she's using imports and export instead of require and the module export thing. Is that because it's a React app, or what's the difference between hers and the one Christy had?
Yeah, good question. So import is the newer syntax. Those are called ES modules. React has had support for them out of the gate very early on, which is why we default to using imports in React code. Node somewhat recently just started supporting imports exports, but the default is still require. So that isn't to say that if you want to upgrade your project to using imports and exports in Node, which was a requirement for you so that you could get fetch working, that's great. And that's a step in the right direction for the future. But the reasoning that we don't teach import export in Node right out of the gate is that only the newer versions of Node support it. So we still cover that require system, but you can accomplish the exact same things. It literally just comes down to, do you use require and module.exports, or do you use import from and export as part of your code? So React has never used the common JS require system. So we are kind of required to not use require in React. We are kind of required to use import export in React, but then in Node, we can use either. We just need to do an additional little setup in package.json to use import export instead of require.
That was a type module thing, right?
You got it.
What was the other question? So if I do my project in React, then I don't need that node fetch thing.
Correct. The reason why we had to do node fetch on the back end was that while the browser will enforce cores, your server doesn't have to enforce it. So that's why we ended up doing the node fetch instead of doing it in the browser. Was the browser was having a hard cores policy, and they were like, you're not tops.com, so you're not allowed to get to our data. But when you do it from a server to another server, your server won't enforce cores like the browser will.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole, go ahead.
Could I just finish up? So
yeah.
Would it be best for me to stick with the node fetch or to not?
Stick with node fetch, because I think you're going to run into cores errors the second that you go back to doing it in React.
Okay, thank you. So don't do my app in React, then I guess that's the second thing.
Oh, you can do it now that you've got the data in your backend, you can do the app in React.
Okay, so just to get the data, I need the node fetch, and then once I have that in my database, all right, thank you.
There you go, you got it. Okay, now Nicole, go ahead.
I was trying to set up my backend. I was just doing it right before we got on, but is it the npm create start then the name, or is it just create?
No, okay, so backend does not use React at all. Backend, the front end is in React, the backend is in Node and Express. So for the backend, you need to mkdir. Well, you already made the portfolio backend. So now that you're in that folder, it's going to be an npm init-y. So npm space init init space, oh, no, space -y. And then you're going to npm install express, sequelize, and pg. And cores while you're at it. sequuelize.
Or is in what else?
PG.
PG.
And probably body dash parser while you're at it.
Space body dash parser.
Okay, and now enter on that and go ahead and open Portfolio Backend in VS Code.
It's open already somewhere. I just gotta find it. Okay, I'll just reopen it.
And then you need to create a new file called server.js.
Oh.
And then last thing you need to do in your package.json, do a comma at the end of the test line, end of line 7. Enter, quote, start, lowercase, and then npx space nodemon space server.js. And then from here, you can look at the code that we started working on yesterday to get server.js to have all the express stuff in it and also to set up sequelize.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But that should give you a good starting point. Ooh, that was a close one, but Zoom put Doug before Christy.
I'll be quick. I had asked you this in class about whether you need to have headers in a fetch call if you don't have a body. And you said the headers can include other stuff than the format of the data in the body. But do you need to have headers in your fetch call? I have a bunch of them that don't.
You don't need them in your fetch call. That is not to say that there are not headers in the request, however. So just because you don't add any headers doesn't mean the server is not going to receive headers. So the browser will actually add some headers for you without you even asking, like the browser type and a couple other things. So while it is
that from Postman.
Yes. So while it is completely valid to not have anything in your headers, the browser will likely add headers without you realizing it. And I don't know that a request is valid without any headers, even if they are some empty headers. But in answer to your question, your code itself does not need to use headers.
Okay, so if I'm not getting any errors, I'm fine not including headers.
Absolutely. Yeah, so in the portfolio, what we're going to start doing tomorrow is making GET requests to get all of the projects out from the database. But we're not going to be posting anything, so we don't need a body. And because we don't need a body, we don't need body parser. So it is completely valid in Express to not have body parser set up if all you're doing is pulling information out and not actually uploading any information to the server.
What about with patch and post? Because I have patch and post calls that are not using headers.
But are using the body. So at that point, you still don't need headers. Oh, no.
I think I might have just used params.
Then that is completely valid. Yes. As long as you are. So body parser needs the header in order to know that the data type is application JSON. So that's why we need the headers, is so that when the server receives the body, it knows how to parse it.
Okay, so if you're including a body, you definitely have to include headers. Otherwise, you don't necessarily need headers.
Correct.
Okay,
Because
Right.
you're not really, when you're using URL parameters, you're not really describing the application type as JSON because it's not JSON, it's get parameters. So it's question mark and ampersand and all of that stuff. Or route parameters, at which point it still isn't JSON. So that application JSON is just describing the body, and that's why you need it in the header.
okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Cool, no problem. Christy, go ahead.
So I wasn't listening at the beginning of Doug's question. Well, so then I started chiming in when I heard you say body person. So when I created my backend for my capstone, I used body. Well, I wasn't sure when I sent you the question. So body parser means that we're going to be making the HTTP pulls into our
No,
database.
but no. Body parser is saying I'm sending some data from the front end as JSON. So in order for the back end to know that it's JSON and be able to turn it back into an object, we add headers to it. So whenever you've got a body in your request in the front end that is JSON.stringifying, you also want the header that's setting the content type to application JSON. So that when the backend gets it, it can say, oh, this is JSON coming in as part of the body. I should parse it out to an object.
So if I'm bringing in outside into my backend, into my database, I needed like Express, SQLize, body parser. I needed all the things, like kind of like how Larry is getting outside information and then pulling it in. You need all of those things when you set up your backend.
It depends. Most of the time, you are going to be sending a body to your backend, and you need some way to parse that. However, with the portfolio site, we are doing everything with GET requests, and we aren't going to use POST requests with the body in them, so we don't need body parser. The vast majority of the time, if data is getting sent into your API via a JSON body, you need body parser.
Okay. Okay.
Scotty, go ahead.
Okay, so I just attempted to do what you just did with my about. And I have a question as far as like when I'm on my homepage and I click the about, shouldn't it put me to that about page and show me
Let's see your
what I
code.
was doing? Okay,
It should, but let's see if you mix something up on the wiring.
gotcha.
Okay, so you
That's
created
all.
about. Let's start
Sorry.
there. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. Now go to your app.js. And okay, now here's what's missing. You said go to the about page, but you've got to say, hey, the about page is going to be at /about.
Oh, okay, so it should be I should be putting a dot there about.
No dot, just about.
Gotcha.
And
So,
the only reason we don't do that on the home page is because we don't want to have to say /home. We just want to be able to go to localhost 3000 and have it show up.
okay, so let me just.
Okay, so now let's go to your nav or your header.
Okay. Vansco, where are you? Okay.
And now in here, same
It
thing.
just
We want to
says-
go to /about.
Okay. Ooh, I don't know what I got open over here. I got a
Max,
lot.
don't you have to change those classes to class name, or is that not the case?
You will, yes. But let's get, okay, now
Okay.
you're working there. So Larry said in your code, he noticed some of them say class equals. Remember, everything in React needs to be class name equals.
Okay.
And you can use the find and replace trick to do that.
Sorry, got a lot open. Let's close those out. I don't need them, right? We're gonna save that though. Okay.
So whenever you have like a class equals, make sure it says class name equals instead. Capital N. But you're going to have a lot of them in your code, you know, here, 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 here.
Oh,
So
okay.
you may want to do a find, which is a
Okay.
Command F. And hit the little
Class.
arrow drop down. Yep. And then the little arrow drop down on the left. That one.
Mhm.
And then replace it with
But,
class name.
Hold on, she should probably put the equal sign because if she does,
I
class
think
name
that-
is gonna replace every instance of class with class name, including class name.
Yeah, so what Larry's saying is you've already started changing some of them over, like right here. So you don't
Okay.
want it to say you don't want it to say class name. So if you do that equals, it's gonna make sure it only gets the ones that haven't already been changed.
Okay, so I'm right by putting that equals next to class.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then class name equals there. And now you don't want to forget the equals. Oh, okay. And now you can hit the replace all right there.
That's gonna give her 2 equals.
No, she's good.
Okay. Oh, yeah, she's got equals there. All right, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the first one, yeah. And so now you've got everything converted there.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
No problem.
You're welcome. And Max, my question piggybacks off of Christie's with the body parser.
Yep.
So I know we've done a lot where we said, hey, you're expecting JSON, but was that for like the models that we were sending, or what was the purpose of that? Because I was, my brains were fried at that time.
So body parser isn't necessarily for the models. It's that the internet is comically bad at sending any type of data other than a string. And so when we do a fetch request, there's no way to tell the server, hey, we're sending you an object. So what we have to do is convert it on the front end to a string, and that string happens to be in the JSON data type. And then we tell the server, hey, the data type that we're sending you is JSON, and we do that in the header. Then it gets to the back end, and we're like, well, we don't actually want JSON. We want an object that we can work with. So the body parser goes and looks at the header, and if the header has an application type set to JSON, it parses the JSON string back out into an object.
Okay, can you give me an example of like some of the something we sent over that we turned into a JSON object? And yeah.
Yeah. So login is probably a good example of log front end, or maybe an edit is an even better example. So here, when we make a new post in our blog, we want to send the title and the content, but we can't really send an object unless we stringify it. The problem is this is now a string when it gets to the server. So what we do is we add the header on here and we say, hey, the content type of the body is JSON. So now what happens is when the server gets it, and it says, oh, the server, every time the server gets a request coming in, use body parser, which is coming in from NPM, and parse out the JSON. So if we don't have this line, when we make a new post down here, we can't use rec.body because it's not parsed out. So what we do, because otherwise it would be a string, and we can't call .title on a string, we can only call .title on an object. So basically what this server.use JSON is doing is parsing out the stringify that we use, and do it in a new window, on the front end.
Okay.
So the server.use body parser.json is essentially the reverse of the JSON.string that we did on the front end. And the only reason it knows to do this is because we set the header content type to application JSON.
Okay, thank you.
Got to go in 5 minutes, but until then, Christy, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
Real quick, I just want to know. So I want you to just go over these real quick.
Okay, yeah, so we haven't really like used any of them yet, but whenever we put things in our model, they're going to be different columns. So we just said, hey, we've got a name column, a summary column, an image URL column, but every column has to have a column type in SQL. So it's not like Express where you, or it's not like Excel where you can just put in new columns. You have to tell the database what kind of data is going to be in that column. So we use string whenever we know the content is going to be under 255 characters. We use text whenever the content could go over 255 characters. Did that answer your question?
So this is just because we're doing this for our database for our portfolio, this is just giving us like a, what I want to say, like an outline for our database.
Yeah, so think about like a model car. The model car is modeled after the full-size car. The same goes for our database. We are creating a project model that is modeling it after what the project table looks like in the database.
Is this a good model for our capstone or no?
Well, every model is very unique to the data type that you're storing, right?
Okay.
So every model, it's a good idea to put an ID on it with the auto increment and all of that stuff. After that, you have to decide, hey, what data am I storing in my database and how does it relate to each other? And that is the point of the ERD. Is, hey, let me go design everything out and figure out what I need to store, right? So for my things, what am I storing? Well, I can store the name of the thing. I may want to store the description of the thing. I may want to store why it's my favorite thing, and I may want to store an Amazon URL for that thing. And so that model is going to look very different than the project model because it's gonna, you know, you're storing different data about it.
Okay.
So the basic layout of the model is a good one to follow. But what you're actually storing in the model, you know, you don't care about what the tech stack is of your favorite thing. So that doesn't make any sense to, you know, use over in your stuff. But all of the data types, no matter what kind of model it is, are going to be the same. Right, so okay, I'm always going to have a data type .text or .string or .boolean or any of those. No matter what kind of data I'm storing, I'm going to be reusing those data types.
Okay.
Answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. Last
Thanks,
call
Max.
for
This was
any
very
quick
helpful.
questions. Awesome. Hopefully a couple more light bulb moments for you guys.
I got some today.
Good.
I found a gaming monitor at Target. And I had a $15 off coupon, so I'm really excited.
All right, take
I'm
care,
gonna-
everybody.
Christy,
Thank
I'm going to send you a link to the 4K one that I just got, just in case you still want portable.
Yeah, this one is portable too, but it's gaming. It's a gaming monitor.
All right. Well, I'll send you the one I got on Amazon just so you have options.
Okay, thank you.
All right. See ya.
See you tomorrow.